Well, we're going to get to something that'll make you really mad in a second. I want you to start normalizing Chairman Trump, okay? As just a thing in your head. Because all I think of when I see this stuff is the people who are pushing for censorship in the classroom, their attitude is exactly of the cartoon caricature of Red Guards under Mao. That's how they behave. In the most cartoonish, made-for-TV depictions of communism. That is how they behave. Oh, right, we're going to talk about the Texas A&M. So, let me pull it up quickly, okay? I think this has been updated today. We talked about this on Patreon, but we're going to talk about it a bit more here. So this is from the Daily News, which, by the way, is a great website, and I highly recommend you all favorite it and go read it, because they cover stuff about philosophy, and lately they've been heavy on the politics, and I really enjoy that. In Sunday's Fat Folds. That is very rude and anatomically correct. So Texas A&M bans Plato. So what is this referring to? Texas A&M, in accordance with your fascist government's recommendations, which university administrators, being largely political plants and rich people who bought their way in, are perfectly happy to fold onto because they have no investment whatsoever in higher learning. Texas A&M, which I learned is the Agricultural and Mechanical University, has sent a memo, an email to a professor who was teaching contemporary moral issues, instructing him that he can't talk about contemporary moral issues, but more interestingly, he can't talk about Plato. So listen to this. Greetings, Martin. This is Dr. Martin Peterson. I am writing to you in advance of my general email to the faculty, as you are teaching a core curriculum course this semester which may be affected by the Board of Regents' recent vote. I am writing individual faculty members who have communicated with me an intent to include potentially relevant material in a course in order to communicate the system policy to them. The language that was passed by the BOR is now posted. The relevant language is the following. No system academic course will advocate race or gender ideology, or topics related to sexual orientation or gender, or topics related to sexual identity or orientation. So sexual orientation or gender identity. No topics related. What does that mean? Upon prior written approval of the member's CEO after review of the course and relevant course material, specific non-core curriculum or graduate courses in some disciplines may teach race or gender ideology or topics related to sexual orientation or gender identity. Such approval may be granted in limited circumstances upon demonstration of a necessary educational purpose. Put simply, this means that the Board of Regents has clarified that core curriculum courses, which includes Phil 111, Contemporary Moral Issues. Contemporary Moral Issues. Why is this stuff being banned? Because this is a contemporary moral issue that the current administration is leveraging as a part of its political strategy. Can't teach contemporary moral issues in contemporary moral issues. Any non-core course that includes such material will require an exemption, and all indications are that these will be under limited circumstances, namely when the content is necessary for the integrity of the course. I wanted to make you aware of this as soon as I had some direction from the college, who has been consulting with the university administration. I'm still hopeful that faculty, initially part of the priority review deadline of December 22nd, will be able to get me their syllabus, but I understand if you request extra time. And it's like, look at this. Greetings, Dr. Peterson. Thank you for your email. The college leadership team and I have discussed your syllabus and the Provost's office requirements for compliance with the new system rule 0801. You have two options going forward. You may mitigate your course content to remove the modules on race ideology and gender ideology and the Plato readings that may include these. The Plato readings that may include these. So what he was teaching in that class, by the way, was Plato's Symposium. Now here's what's a little bit fun about this. In Plato's Symposium, you see a normalization of adult and minor relationships. That's not the issue they have with it, though. Of course not. Their president is intimately linked in with the most prolific sex trafficking ring in human history. No, what they object to is it by Aristophanes? What they object to is a dialogue within the dialogue of the symposium, in which they talk about how once upon a time, and this is not even the position of the symposium, by the way, once upon a time, uh, human beings were both male and female. And here's the irony of the situation. And I talked about this on Patreon as well, but I'll put it in more condensed form here. The reason why the Trump administration and why conservatives in general are hyper paranoid about gender roles and about gender identity and sex orientation is for precisely the same reason that Plato was. See, in Greek society, women were relegated to the household with slaves. This freed up men to do all the cool things. They could go do politics, they could write books, they could write plays, they could go to war, they could do stuff, they could sell stuff at the market, they could do things, they could have cool conversations, they could meet people. And so the general sense emerged, and it's ubiquitous in basically all Greek writings, that women therefore had fewer capacities than men, and therefore are more appropriately relegated to the household. And the higher things were those things that men specifically were enabled to do: think, reason, fight, talk, write, etc. And so the notion emerged that spirit had to do with everything up here, which men were enabled to prioritize, and everything base was down here, which is what women and slaves were in charge of taking care of. Landowners, not men. Same difference. Same difference. Landowners could only be men. And so Plato hated sexual relations, hated physical attraction, hated anything to do with the body down below. Which is why in the laws, he actually comes right out and says he regards same-sex relations as degenerate. Plato, in modern terms, is a radical conservative. He is in fact, as far as like sexual mores are concerned, more conservative than his peers. Which is not to say that there weren't a lot of people who were what we would call homophobic in ancient Greece. But most of those people were commoners, right? And these people are so stupid. Remember at Charlie Kirk's funeral when Stephen Miller was like, "America is the inheritor of Greece and Rome," and a few months later they're banning discussion of Greece and Rome. Here's what this actually means. This university, which had a philosophy program, is now in disgrace with all philosophy programs. If you want to go teach or study philosophy, you will not go to this university. They've destroyed their reputation. They have destroyed the reputation of this university to fall in line with a fascist dictatorship. And here's the really dark part about this. So this is the full reply by the professor, Professor Peterson, the good Peterson, not the bad Canadian Peterson. Dear Dr. Sweet, I hereby submit my S26 syllabus for Phil 111 Contemporary Moral Issues for mandatory censorship review. The syllabus has not changed much since I last taught the course. I have made some minor adjustments to the module on race and gender ideology and to the lecture on sexual morality. These topics are commonly covered in this type of course nationwide, and the material is discussed in depth in the assigned textbook, Fiala McKinnon 10th edition. I also ask my students to read a few passages from Plato, Aristophanes' Myth of the Split Humans, and Diotima's Ladder of Love. Please note that my course does not advocate any ideology. I teach students how to structure and evaluate arguments commonly raised in discussions of contemporary moral issues. If you interpret System Rule 0801 21B as prohibiting these topics, I would like to remind you that the U.S. Constitution protects my course content. Texas A&M is a public institution bound by the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has noted that academic freedom is, quote, a special concern of the First Amendment, which does not tolerate laws that cast a pall of orthodoxy over the classroom, unquote. Another relevant precedent is Sweezy versus New Hampshire. Here is Chief Justice Earl Warren for the majority in 1957. Quote, "The essentiality of freedom in the community of American universities is almost self-evident. No one should underestimate the vital role in a democracy that is played by those who guide and train our youth. To impose any straitjacket upon the intellectual leaders in our colleges and universities would imperil the future of our nation. No field of education is so thoroughly comprehended by man that new discoveries cannot yet be made. Particularly is that true in the social sciences, where few, if any, principles are accepted as absolutes. Scholarship cannot flourish in an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust. Teachers and students must always remain free to inquire, to study, and to evaluate, and to gain new maturity and understanding. Otherwise, our civilization will stagnate and die," unquote. Isn't this an argument made by Jordan Peterson once upon a time, who is now silent on this? The actual stooge. All of these people, well, we're going to get to something that'll make you really mad in a second. I want you to start normalizing Chairman Trump, okay? As just a thing in your head. Because all I think of when I see this stuff is the people who are pushing for censorship in the classroom. Their attitude is exactly of the cartoon caricature of Red Guards under Mao. That's how they behave. In the most cartoonish, made-for-TV depictions of communism, that is how they behave. "Excuse me," and you're going to see them do exactly this. "Excuse me, I don't believe the Supreme Leader has authorized this discourse." Is Jordan Peterson even still alive? In the same sense as RFK Jr. Restrictions on teaching based on viewpoint discrimination are unconstitutional under nearly all circumstances. If faculty are required to seek prior administrative approval for classroom content, that raises serious questions about prior restraint. Courts have repeatedly distinguished between holding faculty accountable after the fact for alleged misconduct and imposing advance censorship of course content. Moreover, restrictions that single out specific perspectives as more problematic than others have repeatedly been found unconstitutional. In Garcetti versus Caballos, the Supreme Court discusses limits on public employee speech. However, the court explicitly set aside the question of whether its analysis applied to speech related to scholarship or teaching. I also note that Texas A&M is a signatory to the 1940 Statement of Principles on Academic Freedom and Tenure, which affirms that faculty are entitled to freedom in the classroom in discussing their subject, and that limitations of academic freedom because of religious or other aims of the institution should be clearly stated in writing at the time of the appointment. I was hired in 2014 when Texas A&M was an ideologically neutral institution, and I was not informed of any ideologically motivated limitations on academic freedom of the kind recently announced. Even if you were to conclude that my syllabus conflicts with System Rule 0801, constitutional protections for free speech and academic freedom would control. As a public institution, Texas A&M should not enforce policies that raise serious constitutional concerns. By the way, I'm getting the hiccups right now. Also something that happens to Aristophanes in the Symposium, and it's very funny. As a public institution, Texas A&M should not enforce policies that raise serious constitutional concerns. When a system rule appears to conflict with the First Amendment, administrators should, in my opinion, proceed with caution and seek legal guidance rather than mechanically apply the rule. I have CC'd Interim Dean North as the questions raised in this message may warrant evaluation at the college or system level before a final determination is made. Respectfully, Martin Peterson. Now, there are many levels of irony to this. A principal one, when it talks about not being able to teach gender ideology. The Daily News actually includes a helpful link to what gender ideology means. That's from today. This is the update today. A professor at Texas A&M University has been told he can't teach Plato because it's too gay, it appears. That is good. That's good. Is it here? I think it might be here. Here we go. Okay. So when it says you can't teach gender ideology, so this is the thing that was quoted. No system academic course will advocate race or gender ideology or topics related to sexual orientation or gender identity unless the course and the relevant course materials are approved in advance by the member's CEO. And gender ideology means a concept of self-assessed gender identity replacing and disconnected from the biological category of sex. Here's what's very funny about this. This is not what people who would be identified as gender ideologues do. Actually, quite the opposite. Does Judith Butler, for instance, one of the people who kind of started off the whole thing, as far as like academic philosophy is concerned, in gender trouble, what do they say? Do they say that gender is a self-assessed identity? Do they say that it's a concept of self-assessed identity? No. They say it's a performance. What does that mean? Well, among other things, it means that actually, and Butler is very explicit about this, you don't get to pick and choose your gender. You don't do that. That's not a thing that's available to you under Butler's scheme. No. See, what actually happens is, because the world is made of a single substance, all of it is just matter, and that matter is something else. You can keep on going down the line. We're still not really sure what it is ultimately, but because the world is just one kind of thing, what accounts for the identity of things is the persistence of a certain activity in relation with other systems of activity. And so therefore, what gender actually refers to is not some metaphysical costume that you put on or some kind of like social affect that you put on as someone separate from your doing. Rather, gender quite literally is just a style of organization. It's a kind of thing that a certain arrangement of matter does as interpreted through a certain social matrix. Put in English, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Butler and everybody more or less after her is pretty explicit that gender identity, that gender is not a costume put on by a self that is external to that identity. So where does this leave trans people? Well, here's the thing. Because there is no self apart from the you that is before us right there, even if not every single part of it is legible to us at any given time, and because that thing that is you is formed also by society and within a social matrix itself, there will be people who will be organized in such a way, whose organization will be in such a way that for them to plug into society, there are particular behaviors that are more appropriate and particular ones that are less. It's actually exactly the same kind of argument a conservative makes with respect to relegating people based on sex identity by society to certain social roles. You have to be in the household. You can't be in the military. You can do all of these things, but it's shameful if you're in the household, right? Now here's where it gets really fun. What about race ideology? The definition of race ideology here is a concept that attempts to shame a particular race or ethnicity, accuse them of being oppressors in a racial hierarchy or conspiracy, ascribe to them less value as contributors to society and public discourse because of their race or ethnicity, or assign them intrinsic guilt based on the actions of their presumed ancestors or relatives in other areas of the world. This also includes course content that promotes activism on issues related to race or ethnicity, rather than academic instruction. Now, here's what's interesting about this. I agree with all of this. This is great. All this highlighted part, I 100% agree. Teachers should not be shaming a particular race or ethnicity or accuse them of being oppressors in a racial hierarchy or conspiracy. Why? Because a principal part of critical race theory is criticizing the idea of a race being an existent, coherent thing. Just as gender is a performance, race is basically a gender. Race is basically a performance within a social matrix. It's not essential. It is a practice. There are assumptions about the identity of certain people based on certain characteristics that are constantly changing over time that get reified and cemented because people are treated differently on the basis of race. Are there black people? Is black people a category of thing? If we were actually being very careful about it, no. Even in terms of skin color, the amount of people who are classified as black or white, they really run the gamut. And often, people who today, with our less discriminating eyes, who are white, who are considered white, once upon a time were considered black. Because it doesn't refer to anything coherent. Now you can track, for example, certain physiological traits genetically to locations and so on and so forth, but they're blurry. And questions have to be asked. Why are you specifying these traits as opposed to these traits? Why are you specifying skin tone as opposed to height? Why are you classifying these skin tones together? Why is there more diversity within this one location than between this group and this group? It's practice. My heritage is Irish. Once upon a time, my pasty ass wasn't white. Square that circle. Once upon a time, they compared the natives of North America to the Irish. When the British first started colonizing North America, they didn't call it colonization, they called it planting. That's what a plantation is, right? They first planted in Ireland, and the Irish were the wild natives they had to deal with. They practiced on us. Which is why I find it very funny when Vosh, who I don't know his actual ethnicity, but he called himself Irish Laddie once upon a time. If he's Polish, that's even funnier for the same reasons. Why he will say stuff like, well, America won, we won. It's like, you didn't win. No, you're only saying we because you lost so profoundly. Your entire identity was erased from existence. Nobody even talks about you as a separate thing anymore. You were assimilated. And here's the rub. When they say a concept that attempts to shame a particular race or ethnicity, they aren't talking in the sense that a critical race theorist might, which is attempting to shame an individual as part of a race or ethnicity, or accuse them individually of being oppressors, would be incorrect because it reifies a concept of race that our entire philosophical project is purposed towards dismantling because it is untruthful. Not as a political project, because it is untruthful, hence the political project. They are saying this because they do believe in particular races and ethnicities. They think they cohere, and they are concerned with theirs being given respect. Or more accurately, supremacy. Doesn't Plato say women are equal to men in terms of capacity for virtue? In the Republic he does. But then look at how he describes men with no virtue. He describes them as womanly. There's a great paper that we went over a little while ago, again on Patreon. I apologize. That's where all the theory streams are. The paid ones anyways. So if you want to see a bunch of extra content that you're not seeing here, make sure to join my Patreon. Some of the theory streams are free. I try to make free ones every so often, especially when I think the topic is sort of important to generalize. This one I was going to talk about here anyway, so I wasn't super worried about that. But we read a great paper. It's actually referenced in Judith Butler by Elizabeth Spellman called Woman as Body, and it's specifically talking about that contradiction. Plato believes that women and men in the Republic, Socrates, I should say, argues in the Republic, which is a book by Plato, so it gets confusing. But Socrates argues in the Republic that men and women have the same, their souls are not different, simply on the basis of their body. Therefore, women who exhibit men's virtues should be able to rule. They are men's virtues. He doesn't say that explicitly, but they are men's virtues. Elsewhere, however, he characterizes men who are emotional, indecisive, fearful, fussy, whatever you want. He's a typical misogynist fare. He characterizes them as womanly. And Elizabeth Spellman wants to ask, how do you do this? How do you have these two opinions? They seem to be contradictory. And what she arrives at is, well, Plato, as a consequence of the material circumstances in which he was raised, inherited a somatophobic attitude, fear of the body. And fear of the body, in this case, happened to correspond to the division of labor in Athenian society, in which women were relegated to the household and to satisfying bodily and reproductive needs, and men were free. Freedom is obviously the preferable one. You're not in chains and you can pursue excellence. Stuff of the household distracts you from excellence. Therefore, you fear the stuff of the household. You fear the stuff of the body. You pursue the stuff of the mind. And guess which side of that equation women are on? That's the argument. I think it's kind of compelling, actually. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of Greeks tended to valorize like same-sex relationships as being in some sense more virtuous than heterosexual relationships. Because just to be clear, Athenians were not good liberals. They weren't accepting of difference in that way. However, what happens is if you marry off all of your women when they're not women, when they're children, and you only allow men like a full education and full life experience, you're probably going to have a more fulfilling conversation with the men. You know, because you stunted the development of all of the women and married them off when they were kids. Stands to reason. Sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy that way. But that's how material conditions work. Because they don't just produce the things that we have to work with in the world, they produce us as well. So, upshot. When they say, we don't want you teaching gender or race ideology, what they mean is, we don't want you teaching stuff that criticizes our gender and race ideology. Because Judith Butler doesn't teach gender ideology. Judith Butler teaches that gender is ideology. I'm going to show you something that's going to make you very angry. It made me angry. It made me very angry, in fact. And I'm going to end with this section. We're going to be going to In the Fold after this. I'm going to end this section by suggesting a possible course of action that some people could start taking, and I want to know what you think about it. I want to know what you think about it. Oh, by the way, before we continue, in case I forget, make sure you join the Discord server. It is linked in the description. We are coordinating to build up a group of people who are studying and talking about the history of how we got to where we are, the infiltration of the universities by gender-critical ideologues, to build up a better understanding of the philosophy of these matters, and a history of colonialism. And we're going really, really hard on this. We've had a few hiccups in the past. We're going full into gear right now because stuff is accelerating, and so we will accelerate too. But get ready for this. This is going to make you very angry. So this is also at Texas A&M University. Okay? There is a course called English Literature for Literature for Children, English 360. Representative writers, genres, and movements, texts and movements. A lecturer in the English department at Texas A&M University was fired from her position after a student in one of her courses complained that she was, quote, not entirely sure material on gender identity is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, according to Chairman Trump, there's only two genders. This is a university student. Good God. And also in an English course, no less. In an English course, there's only two genders. There is only two genders. And also, this very much goes against not only mine, but a lot of people's religious beliefs, unquote. The student recorded her voicing of the complaint in class, see the video at the end of this post, and we will, and shared it along with audio recordings of her conversation with Texas A&M's president, Mark A. Welsh III, with Texas State Representative Brian Harrison. Initially, President Welsh had told the student that firing the instructor was not happening. It didn't age well, though. This is appropriate. Free dementia quiz. Harrison, who describes himself on Twitter as a believer in freedom, shared the recordings widely on the social media platform on Monday, along with a letter he wrote to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, in which he demands that he fire both the instructor and Welsh. Later that day, And then again yesterday in a statement on the university website, Welsh announced that he was firing the instructor because Welsh is a stooge. If you ever wonder why people in Nazi Germany, for example, just bent over backwards, because children, when they read about this, they're like, oh, why didn't they just fight back? Why did they just go along with it? That's why, because people are weak. Adults are weak, more specifically. Children typically haven't had their souls corrupted to that extent. They don't typically value their careers over being the good guy in the story. Here's what Welsh said. This afternoon, following full consideration of the fact that the administration has a gun to my head, the facts related to the situation, pardon me, I directed the provost to terminate the professor involved, effective immediately. Please understand these decisions were mine alone. They weren't, you have no decisions, and were not made lightly. While I cannot provide all the details at this time, they would have gotten me too, and I was just saving my own skin. I will share the following facts. This summer, a children's literature course contained content that did not align with any reasonable expectation of standard curriculum for the course. After this issue was raised, college and department leadership worked with students to offer alternative opportunities for students to complete the course and made changes to ensure this course content does not continue in future semesters. At that time, I made it clear to our academic leadership that course content must match catalog descriptions for each and every one of our course sections. However, I learned late yesterday that despite that directive, the college continued to teach content that was inconsistent with the published course description for another course this fall. As a result, I took the above administrative actions, and deans and department heads will conduct an audit of course offerings to ensure that they align with the course descriptions. This university is going to tank. Nobody who is serious about studying any topic is going to want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Our students use the published information in the course catalog to make important decisions about the courses they take in pursuit of their degrees. If we allow different course content to be taught from what is advertised, we break trust with our students. That's bullshit, by the way. Just to be clear. University administrators are not educators. They are not scholars. They have no conception of how to teach topics. When it comes to our academic offerings, we must keep faith with our students in the state of Texas. This is the recording. This is going to make you very angry. Just be warned in advance. This is going to make you livid.
Just kind of a recap of our remarks on gender and sexuality. We read from last class. One thing we didn't get to in our last class.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agents.
Those us, by the way, are telling you that this was coached, and this isn't how she actually speaks. Why? Well, because she said there's only 2 genders, which means this person cannot speak, this person cannot read, this person is an idiot. This person is too dumb to write the script that they are reciting. They are too dumb to recite the script that they are reciting, as a matter of fact. This person is a plant. This person 100% was put up to this by somebody else. This person signed up to this course specifically to assassinate the career of this professor and to create propaganda for the Trump administration. That's what this is.
These funding programs that promote gender ideology. And this also very much goes against not only myself, but a lot of people's religious beliefs. And so I am not going to participate in this because it's not legal. And
by the way, the correct answer to this, and the professor did not give the correct answer, the correct answer to this is okay. Just say okay. Okay. Because you won't win an argument. These people don't argue. They don't think they have to justify anything they say. These people just hate you. They just hate you. You're dealing with old, pathetic people with no future who are sharing this stuff on Facebook because they just hate you. Just say, okay, sorry to hear that. Have a good day.
I don't want to promote something that is against our president's laws, as well as
our president's laws. I don't want to promote something that's good. These slavish, there's a Greek word for you. Start normalizing it. These slavish people, our president's laws. You don't have a president. You have a cartel run by a pedophile. And you're an orc. You're a little serf. You're a little pawn.
It's my religious beliefs.
You should have a right to engage in things that you find offensive. And you suggest it false.
That's the mistake. Don't debate these people. Don't debate these people. Never debate these people. They have no respect for debate. They have no honor. They have no dignity. Don't debate these people. Ignore them. Ignore them. Flat out ignore them. And if you can't ignore them, if they keep making noise, call campus security. Have them removed. It's a classroom. It's not a debate YouTube channel. These people are like cartoon depictions of Red Guards. Excuse me, the chairman has said that we're not allowed to think such things. How pathetic. Thank you, Rix. I appreciate it. How pathetic do you have to be as an animal, as a creature? How low are you? It's like that Turning Point USA thing that they were sharing around. This student, and that was somebody else who got fired as well. This student was assigned in psychology. The student was assigned a paper, a short 2-page paper, and she chose in a psychology class to make the argument that trans people, trans identities, are the result of demonic forces, which is really embarrassing. And Toilet Paper USA was sharing this around on Twitter, and everybody was laughing at them because people can tell. People know that this is embarrassing. People recognize how stupid this is. But that's not for those people. This is for the people on Facebook. This is for the doddering old morons who fall for AI pictures of the 500-pound man breaking a bridge as he walks across it. These are people who fall for those pictures of tribal people eating like live like baboons or something. These are people who think that AI generated stuff is real. These are people who are like zombies. These are the kinds of people who will pray, "Please save me, Donald Trump," at a traffic stop. Did anybody see that? Did anybody see that? Oh shit. The rubber part of my earphone just flew away. Where'd it go? Damn it. Okay, I guess we're one-earing this. Here we go.
Please save me. Please save me. Please get these people away.
Oh, hang on. I gotta resize the screen here. Okay, let's make it smaller. This is I find this beautiful, to be honest with you.
Somebody tag in Donald Trump. Donald Trump, if you can hear us, please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump, please. I'm asking you. Please save me. Please save me. Please get these people away from me. In dear God's name, please stop these people.
Sorry.
They're breaking.
Save me, Donald Trump! They're breaking my window! Hey, here's a...
Yes, sir.
Imagine praying to Donald Trump. Your God doesn't like you, dude. I'm sorry. That's actually blasphemy. You're not only not going to get saved by Donald Trump. Read some colorful sections of the last part of your Bible. That's where you're headed. Does it ever occur to these people that, like, hey, you know, the book of Revelation, the Revelation talks about how there will be like a beast with 7 heads from the sea, and it'll command people to bow down and worship him. You ever like do these people ever consider that, hey, we're violent, hateful stooges for an imperialist project that is wearing Christian culture as a skin? Do they ever think that maybe they're the servants of the Antichrist? Just saying. Just saying. If you're gonna take that seriously, I can think of a few strong candidates in present day, and none of them are lefties who can't go to the bathroom that fits their gender identity. But you guys here are praying to a president. You guys here are praying to a man who is linked in with a bunch of billionaires who want to replace you with AI, and who are all covering up a giant sex trafficking ring long after the ringleader is dead, which tells you they're all guilty. Except Musk, apparently.